A24 and director Ari Aster team up yet again for another movie that I put squarely in the, hey, do I like this movie or hate it category. This one's called Eddington, and IMDb categorizes it as a comedy western. I'm not sure that's where I would categorize this movie, but then again, I don't really know what to put it under because I don't really know if I understand Ari Aster. With every movie he makes, I feel like he's getting closer and closer to the brink of insanity. Before I saddle up for this Western movie, as it's being referred to, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to Adam Does Movies on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube, I would appreciate it. I post movie reviews, commentary, live streams almost daily on the show. Would love to have you stick around. Okay, let's begin. Hereditary's fantastic. Then you have Midsommar, which is really hard to get through and puts you in a really gross mood, but I think I like it more than not. Then there's Beau is Afraid, and I'm afraid not. Another movie where I'm kind of entertained and interested, but as it plays out, I'm getting less and less invested, and by the end of it, the wheels are fully off, and I just don't know what the hell I'm supposed to get from this movie. And that's pretty much what I would say about Eddington, an R-rated 2.5-hour dark comedy set in the fictitious town of Eddington, New Mexico. Last year, we had a movie called The Apprentice, which followed around Donald Trump and how he was taken under the wing of Roy Cohn. When I reviewed that film, I said it was well put together. It had great acting, but I'm confused as to who the audience for this movie is. Because if you hate this guy, you don't want to watch more of him. And if you love the guy, you don't want to watch this movie either because it paints him in a very, very bad light. So who's the demographic for the film? That's how I felt about Eddington. I'm watching a movie that's set during COVID, and it focuses on the far right and the far left extremes of things. And then it dives even further and talks about the civil unrest during the George Floyd killing. All these different events, on top of the social media apparatus, are gonna build up a powder keg between the two lead characters in this film. The sheriff of the town, Joe Cross, played by Joaquin Phoenix, and the mayor, Ted Garcia, played, of course, by Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal just walks onto sets now, they hit action, and then they put him in wherever they can in movies. And just like pretty much every Pedro Pascal movie, he's in it, and then he's not. Then he randomly shows up here and there, but it feels like he's an afterthought more than a main character, even though he's supposed to be a main character. We are going to spend the majority of the time with protagonist/antagonist Joe Cross. Because Joe Cross is really his own worst enemy at the end of the day. The guy's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He has good intentions, but they ultimately lead to negative outcomes and also turn him into a garbage bag of a person. It's no secret that Ari Aster has a lot to say with this movie, and he's going to paint in broad brushstrokes. Joe Cross would be the perfect example of a beta male who's trying to appear alpha. He has a wife at home named Lou, played by Emma Stone, who's out of her fucking mind. And the stone must not fall far from the creek because her mother is certifiably insane. Dawn also lives with these two, and she's chronically online in the deeper, darker parts of the internet. She's past QAnon. She's whatever's beyond that. On the flip side of the crazy far right, you have the crazy far left, who are taking the George Floyd situation and running with it to the extremes. Even in Eddington, this small little town that mainly keeps to itself, you have a bunch of college kids protesting in the middle of the roads, Black Lives Matter. You have an obnoxious, loud mouthpiece who is yelling about how she feels bad for her whiteness and how her inherent racism has led to such bad situations and oppression. The town of Eddington is supposedly COVID-free, but that does not stop the mayor from installing the mask mandate. This triggers Joe Cross because he has a hard time breathing with the mask on, and he sees his fellow man also having the same issues. So he makes a stand, and this is where the movie really kicks in, as he announces over social media his run for mayor, vehemently opposing Ted. Now, I started this review by talking about how I don't really know who the audience for this movie is, because the film doesn't go silly enough to be funny, nor is it really serious enough to be, well, serious. It's just kind of in the weeds in all of this. And since all of this is still very fresh in my mind, it was tough to just sit and kind of watch the miserable stuff replay in front of me. That being said, I didn't hate this movie either. I just don't think it's great. I don't think it's outright bad. It's unfortunately just kind of in the middle there, like, eh. And again, kind of like Beau is Afraid, where I was on board for the ride, interested to see where it went, As the last act of this one played out, I found the quality drop through the floor. I was really disappointed where the story went. It felt like Ari Aster was building up a cool villain only to have it kind of be meaningless because of a third party that enters the fray late in the game. So the rivalry between Joe and Ted goes nowhere very interesting, and in fact becomes like a third-tier storyline compared to the other stuff going on. It's just a very challenging one for me to recommend to most people because, again, it's a long movie and the destination is not very enjoyable, and the journey getting there, while it can be interesting at times, overall has such a flatness to it. While I do think Ari Aster is spot on with his commentary about the different groups of people, he does not really provide any solutions or go anywhere very fascinating that we haven't seen. So it's just a lot of basic observation. We know these people, we know these guys. From a visual standpoint, I have no problems. Ari Aster makes beautiful looking movies. This is no exception. The reason for the R rating is there's a good amount of swearing, there's some brutal violence later on with some blood and gore, and naturally, since it's an Aster vehicle, we have to have a penis shot. I was planning on not watching this movie. It came out a week or so back, but I did a live stream a couple nights ago and people wanted me to go watch this movie. I'm not entirely sure why, if they thought I was gonna hate it or love it, but I don't know. It was just kind of there for me. It entertained enough, but ironically, I left the movie theater kind of like a patient with COVID who has no sense for taste or smell. I got nothing. But enough about my thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you thought of Eddington. Maybe you're just curious where things stack up between us. And there you have it. Very meh for me across the board with a few highs, a few lows, and just a lot of nothing in between. All right, please, again, think of subscribing to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. That way you won't miss a video by me in the future. You can also like and comment down below. That helps the algorithm out. All right, hopefully I see you next time. Take care. If you appreciate my content, I am a one-man band. This is a ton of work and you want a way to give back. Head on over to patreon.com/AdamDoesMovies. There's tons of exclusive perks over there. Look at these awesome supporters so far. There's some of the best people on this planet and you could be one of them. You could be right there alongside and I would appreciate it.